October 9th, right? Yeah. It is October 9th, 2012, and I have a great guest for you today. I have the president of Dallas Stonewall Democrats, as well as a member of the Lambda legal team. How do you say that, Lambda Legal? Right, just Lambda Legal, not Lambda Legal team.
Right.
Okay, just Lambda Legal. All right, so why don't you introduce yourself and talk about that?
Hey, my name's Omar Narvaez, and I am the current president of the Stonewall Democrats of Dallas. We are the LGBT, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender branch of the Democratic Party here in Dallas County. We're also the largest Democratic club in North Texas with nearly 300 dues-paying members. And for those of you who are out there listening, today is your last and final day to register to vote for the upcoming elections that are going to be taking place in November.
Thank you. So tell me about Lambda Legal and where it gets its name from and what y'all do.
Okay. Lambda Legal is a national nonprofit organization. I'm the community educator for that organization, and what we do is we are working for the full recognition of the civil rights of lesbians, gay men, bisexual, and transgender people, as well as people with HIV. We do our work, we do impact litigation, public policy work, as well as education work. And so where we get our name from is the word lambda kind of stands for the triangle in Greek letters, and that also stands for delta, which many people have seen, the delta sorority. Well, delta actually stands for change, and so that's where Lambda Legal comes from, is we are working to change the way society looks at civil rights for the LGBT and HIV communities.
So what's some examples of some cases that Lambda Legal has worked in? Like, I know you've talked to me about the historic case of the boy being in a dress and got denied going to prom. And talk to me about some of those cases.
Sure. Well, Lambda Legal has been around since 1973. And the first case, we were our very first client. So that was what a lot of people don't know or about Lambda Legal. What happened is that when we went in to get our 501c3 status application approved, which would be our nonprofit application in the state of New York, it was denied. And what happened is that we had actually copied word for word the Puerto Rican Legal Education and Defense Fund application, and where it said Puerto Rican, we just put in lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and we were denied by the court, saying that that didn't need to happen. So we became our very first client, and we had to take it all up to the highest court.
So you were your own client.
Yes.
Am I hearing that right?
Yes, we were our very own first client.
That's
so
awesome.
And thankfully, the New York Appeals Court, which is the highest court in New York, the state of New York, their Supreme Court is the middle court, where in most other states, the Supreme Court is their highest court in their state. But in New York, it's backwards from Texas. And so we won, and we were born in 1973 because of that. So, we'll fast forward. There were lots of cases, but our landmark case is Lawrence v. Texas. And what happened with the Lawrence case is that is the case that Lambda Legal took on in the city of Houston, and we took on the sodomy laws in the state of Texas. And we took it all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And in 2003, the U.S. Supreme Court agreed with Lambda Legal's argument that sodomy was, should be consensual between two adults in the privacy of their bedroom, and that the government should have no say-so on what two consenting adults are doing in the privacy of their bedroom, or more than two, just consenting adults. I don't want to say two, but consenting adults. And the U.S. Supreme Court came back and said that the sodomy law in Texas was unconstitutional, but they went further and said that all sodomy laws in the United States were unconstitutional. And so the final 13 sodomy laws in the country were struck down and that made sodomy, no longer a prosecutorial offense in the United States.
Okay. Okay. How about kids that go to school? Like, what kind of cases do you work on with them? Like the case
Sure.
where the guy was wearing the dress
Okay.
and couldn't go to prom.
Yeah, that was a case. That was a case that was brought to us. His name was KK Logan, and at the time he still used male pronouns, even though he enjoyed wearing women's clothing, and he decided that he was going to go to his senior prom and wear a dress, and the school barred him from being able to do that. And that is a violation of his First Amendment civil rights, because expression is considered speech in the United States. And so we were able to take that to court and take the school district to court, and essentially won that case. And KK Logan won a undisclosed amount of money. Unfortunately, legally, I can't say anything about that.
Right.
However, that was one case. And then that was settled in 2011, and at the very beginning of 2011. And just in the last 6 months, we had another great case on behalf of a young man named Maverick Couch. And Maverick lives in the state of Ohio. And he was told that he could not wear a T-shirt to school on the National Day of Silence that said, Jesus is not a homophobe. And it had the Icarus, which is the fish symbol.
Yeah.
And it had a rainbow in it. And that's all the shirt said, was Jesus is not a homophobe. And his principal said that he had to take it off or he would be expelled from school for wearing that shirt because it was sexual in nature. And saying Jesus is not a homophobe on your T-shirt has nothing to do with...
Yeah, how is that sexual? It wasn't it wasn't talking about any sexual acts. It wasn't...
No, none at all.
It wasn't saying it wasn't even a cuss word, nothing like that.
Nothing like that, exactly. And there's lots of case law on this. And Lambda Legal came in and with a force that I don't think the school district was prepared for or ready to have a national organization drop on them. And within a few weeks, the school district quickly came back and said that Maverick and his friends could wear that shirt only on the National Day of Silence. So we took that as, okay, that's acceptable for now, because that's that's the day that Maverick wanted to wear his shirt and his friends. But we continued on because you shouldn't be told that you can wear a shirt one day out of the year, because, again, that's a violation of your First Amendment civil rights. And the school district ended up coming back and settling, saying that they had violated Maverick's First Amendment rights. And he won a $20,000 settlement. So he's going to, at least be able to go to college on that. And him and his friends are able to wear their Jesus is not a homophobe T-shirts to school any day that they want. So those are some of the impact litigations that we do. We don't take on like, oh, you got a speeding ticket, don't call us. That's not the kind of litigation we do. However, we do have a legal help desk that people can call into. You can go to lambdalegal.org to find the numbers, but the local number here in Dallas is 214-219-8585, and you just ask for the legal help desk, and you can leave your message there, and somebody will get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. And if it's a case that we can't take, because we are nonprofit, so, and again, we do impact litigation, we'll at least send you in the right direction, either with resources, get you information, or provide you with a list of cooperating attorneys that we know are pro LGBT or pro HIV, that are going to treat you with dignity and respect when you go to use their services.
Right. So basically, we all do is you protect students and employers of discrimination on every level, right? Basically.
Yes, we work on any issue that's facing the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community, as well as the HIV community. Just recently, we had a case out in Atlanta where a man was denied a job with the Atlanta Police Department because of his HIV status. He had disclosed it, and everything was fine. They offered him a position. He was getting ready to start, and all of a sudden, the position was no longer available, and we were able to, finally find out that he was replaced, quote unquote, that the job was there, just not for him because of his HIV status. And
that's just crazy, because having HIV, he can still see well and run well and do everything a police officer needs to do.
Right. There was nothing that was barring him from being able to fulfill the duties of the position. And he won a huge, I don't remember the amount, but it was very big amount of money because of that discrimination that was in the workplace there. That was in Atlanta. And then here locally, we just settled a case, the Gill case in Tarrant County. At Tarrant County Community College, a woman was denied the ability to even interview. She was a temporary employee for Tarrant County Community College. She was a teacher there, and she was told by her supervisor that the state of Texas does not like lesbians, and so that means Tarrant County Community College did not either, and she need not even worry about interviewing because there's no way she would get a permanent position. But that's the way that the school works. Yeah,
that's
big wow.
Awful.
So we were able to go into mediation with that one and get that one settled before it ever had to go to court. But the impact on that is that Tarrant County Community College has now changed its non-discrimination policies. It hasn't been done on paper yet, but it's been done through memorandums throughout the college, and that is one of the impacts of it. And she ended up getting a little over, I believe, $160,000 settlement. So it came out to about 3 years worth of wages.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
so
not bad.
Not bad.
Not
Yeah,
bad
and
at all.
she's studying for her doctorate. So like we told her, it's like, hey, this is a great settlement because you'll at least be able to finish your doctorate and not have to worry about having a full-time job while you're trying to do your studying at the same time. So that's a legal workplace issue. So we've talked about schools. We take care of youth in schools. We take care of folks that are in the workplace. We and we also we do a huge push right now with youth in out-of-home care. So youth that are in the foster care system. A lot of people don't realize that LGBTQ, we'll add the questioning youth into that component, sometimes don't have a home. Who do they run to if they're in the foster care system? They already are suffering from maybe not feeling wanted because they're already in the foster care system. They're not in a traditional home setting, if you want to call it that. And so they're already struggling with acceptance just for their living situation and wanting to have a family. And now they are having to deal with coming out or their sexual orientation. And so a lot of providers don't know how to deal with or take care of or treat youth that are in out-of-home care. For instance, there is a case that we settled a while back where a young trans woman or girl was forced to, she was in a group home, and she was forced to live with the boys. She presented as female, she dressed as female, everything about her was female on the outside, and the people at the group home forced her to live with the boys, shower with the boys, and they also taunted her and kind of pushed the bullying that was going on in the group home, and allowed the boys to beat on her, hit on her. When I say hit on, like physically with their fists, and punch her and stuff and kick her. And we were able to go in and get that fixed and won a huge settlement. She'll be very well taken care of if she does everything right. She may not even have to work again in her life.
Wow.
But those are some of the things that people don't realize are happening even in our foster care system. And then we do a lot of work with people that are looking to adopt children. We have a great program that people can download off our website. We have all these toolkits on our website that people can download. And this one is on life and financial planning, because people don't realize that since we don't have marriage equality at a federal level, there are over 1,000 basic civil rights that we are not afforded as people that want to marry a same-sex partner, where you're discriminated against. And so we have a toolkit that tells you and teaches you how to protect your family and who you are, because a lot of families, that are same-sex do have children or do have, money involved. People think, oh, I don't need a will because I don't own anything, or I don't have any, I don't have a lot of money, but you don't realize that you might have a car, you might have, things that may not seem huge in your wealth, actually may be something to, let's say, a partner that, you leave behind if you pass, or you might own a home together. And a lot of mistakes that people make, especially in same-sex couples, is that they'll buy that home together and they will, like, they have both names on the deed because they think, oh, well, that's what we need to do so that we both own this home. But in all actuality, because we're not afforded the right to marry, that home is actually owned 50-50.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's what people don't realize, is that 50-50. So let's say that, me and my partner, we do own a home together and I pass. He owns his 50%. And if we didn't have our paperwork in order, then that means that who the state of Texas thinks is my next of kin, which would not be him, that person owns 50% of our home.
So what if, say you don't have a kid and you did the 50-50 thing and one of the partners or husbands or wives, whatever, dies, who would they give it to?
It depends on the state of Texas and the judge that's, in the probate court. But more than likely it would be, a parent. And if there's no parents alive, then it would probably be a sibling, like a brother or a sister.
So even though that there's another person living in that home, they won't actually give the ownership of that home to that person?
That's correct. You need to have in place a form that's called right to survivorship. That needs to be part of your deed, and part of your paperwork in your home that you purchased is you want to make sure you have a right to survivorship addendum in there. And all this paperwork, we don't give you the forms, but we tell you how to get these in place and all the documents. And you can download this toolkit. It's called it's a life and financial planning toolkit, and you can get it online at lambdalegal.org, and you can download it instantly. It's free of charge. And what I love about it is it even tells you like how to pick an attorney, what are the questions you need to ask, and it kind of gives you a checklist of what you need to put in place, because a lot of these forms to put in place can be very, very costly. It can cost anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000, depending on the attorney and what it is that you're needing. And not everybody has, $5,000 laying around to, get their life in order. But, at least you would know, okay, well, this is the most important form that my family needs filled out, especially when it comes to not benefits, but life. When you need to make life decisions, like let's say that I go to the hospital and I'm incapacitated, do I have my medical power of attorney in place? And a lot of people think, oh, that's all I need. Great, yeah. All the medical power of attorney is allowing is for the person you designate to make life decisions for you while you're in the hospital. But while you're not in the hospital, you still have a whole other life, paying bills, paying the mortgage, dealing with whatever it is that your life is dealing with. That person does not have the right to make your decisions outside of that hospital room. So you also want to have a regular power of attorney, not just the medical, but also a power of attorney, because that would then allow, let's say, your same-sex partner to go in and take care of your financial needs if that happened, with your money. And those are some of the things where there are inequalities, because if we were able to just legally be married and that be, because you can get legally married in some states, but not in Texas, obviously. But even in those states, because the federal government is allowed to discriminate against same-sex marriages, you still have to have all of these pieces of paper in place, which is an inequality. Why does my marriage have to, or partnership have to, add all these paperworks and all these financial expenses? So that's why marriage equality is so important for a lot of folks. And then the next thing obviously is workplace discrimination. We need to get some form of enumeration where sexual orientation and gender identity expression are protected under federal law for people being able to work. Now, of course, the good thing is for gender identity expression for transgender people is that recently the EEOC has stated that.
What's the EEOC?
The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And that's the place where you report if you are being mistreated or discriminated against at work, and you're under one of the protected classes. So race, religion, creed, all of those are protected classes, but sexual orientation is not a protected class. However, gender identity and expression now is, because the EEOC has stated that gender identity falls under sex, which is a protected class.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah.
an interesting way of doing that.
Yeah, so that's kind of really exciting for the trans community, that they actually have a form of protection ahead of the LGB community, because it usually doesn't work that way.
Right, usually works the other way around.
Right, the G and the L's usually get it first, and then the T's, if they're lucky, might get a scrap of protection at the end. But this time around, it's worked backwards, which is good. It's a great thing, because we know that transgender people suffer far much worse discrimination in the workplace, in public accommodations, in housing. It's a lot harder for trans folk to have any form of equality. So it's a good thing that this is there, but until we're all protected.
Yeah, and even just to change the your name and sex on your driver's license and all that paperwork, that you have to go before a judge, and
Right.
it costs money, and
Right.
it's just a ridiculous thing, because I'm sure all the judges that see all those cases do not want to deal with that. Like, they would rather actually deal with a real case, like a family case or a criminal case. But that, I'm sure, like, all the judges hate doing that, because they already know what the result of the case is. Yes, you can do this.
Right.
I'm sure that they don't want to do that.
Right, and it depends on the jurisdiction. In Texas, especially, certain courts in certain counties, no problem. Yeah, come on down, make your application. Come before the court. You do have to say why you're changing your name, and some judges, we're lucky here in Dallas County, it's a much easier process. But in some counties, it's just absolutely not. They will not let you change your name or your gender markers or anything. So it just depends on where you live and where you file, which again to me is a form of discrimination. Why should a trans person that lives out in, I don't even know the county names out there, but somewhere out in the middle of nowhere West Texas or nowhere East Texas, they go before judge who just isn't educated correctly and doesn't know and is bigoted, that they should be denied. But because somebody who lives in, let's say, Dallas County or Harris County, where education is much more prevalent and prominent, that they totally get to do it, and I can't say that it always happens, but there's an easier process here locally and in some of the larger, more densely populated counties than in the more rural counties.
Yeah, I think it would just be much simpler if it was a form to fill out like at the DMV than having to go before a judge and spend all that money on the legal paperwork that's
Right.
involved.
Yeah, it's costly.
Yeah.
It's very costly, and and the hard part is, okay, let's say that you are trans and now you lose your job because you come out to your employer and you were trying to get these things changed, and now all of a sudden it's like, well, how do you pay for them? Because you were just discriminated against because of who you are, your gender identity or your gender expression, and not everybody falls into the same categories as everybody else. There are people. We're all different. We don't all fall into the same norms, the social norms that have been designed and created for us. And the trans community has it probably the worst as far as everybody, because they have the least amount of privileges that other groups have and are afforded just because of the way they were born or who they are.
Right. Anyway, it's time to switch hats to
Okay.
the Stonewall president of the Stonewall Democrats. Tell us a little bit about the Stonewall Democrats, what that is, and what you're doing in Dallas.
Sure. Okay. So I happen to be the.
You can look into the mic right there.
Okay.
Camera. Not
Okay.
camera.
It's a little weird. It's
like I was looking at the camera and I was like, oh, I can only see half of his face.
Oh, sorry.
I wasn't thinking about that.
I keep looking over there because that's where you're sitting. So, but yeah, so I'm the current president of the Stonewall Democrats of Dallas, and what we are is the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender section or branch of the Democratic Party. We are a national organization, and we happen to have affiliates throughout the country. And Stonewall Democrats of Dallas just happens to be the largest Democratic club in North Texas, as well as the largest LGBT Democratic club in the entire state of Texas. We do fall under a branch, a Texas caucus. So there's enough Stonewall affiliates throughout the state of Texas. We're the most densely populated affiliates of any state. And so we happen to have the Texas Stonewall Democratic Caucus as well. So members who join.
I remember going to the caucus meeting.
Yeah.
Omar and I both went to the Texas Democratic Party convention together.
Yes, and we had a good time.
We did. It was great. It was fun.
It's a lot of fun. I encourage people to get involved, whether you're LGBT or not. If you're non-LGBT, I encourage everybody to get involved, especially people of color, women, because we believe in full inclusion, and we have everybody at the table. And one of my favorite quotes is from one of my favorite Democratic activists was she used to always say that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And and that's true.
That's funny.
Because when you're not at the table, what is important to you is not going to be brought up. And that's what I love about the Democratic Party. So a lot of stuff is going on here in Dallas County. If you want to get involved and help, you can go to stonewalldemocratsofdallas.org. That's the first place that you can go to and learn about us and find out some of the events that we're having. We're also on Facebook. And you can also go to the Dallas County Democratic Party website, and you can get involved in that manner, or you can go to organizingforamerica.com. That's the president's large.
Show us your phone. I noticed you had the logo on your phone.
Oh,
that was really
let's
interesting.
see. What did I do with my phone? Oh, it's back in my pocket, I think. I will show you. So I got some really cool bling at the national convention, because I also was a national delegate. Unfortunately, you didn't run for national delegate.
Right, I did not, because I knew I just did not have the money this year to go, because I was like, all the way in North Carolina? No, I'm going to skip this one.
Yeah, it was a blast, though. But I have, I got this little...
Hold on, I'm going to carry that to the camera.
Okay, I got this little button for my phone, and I thought it was really cool. Somebody gave it to me. So I call it my Obling, my iPhone Obling. So that's the rising sun that the Obama campaign uses. And somebody from California actually gave it to me. And that's what I loved about the national convention, is that you got to hang out and spend so much time with so many different activists from all over the country, because locally, we see the same folks. Mm-hmm. We're all on the same page, but to be in that environment with with over 5,000 folks that are thinking like you and that believe like you. It was so empowering because, here in Texas, sometimes you get beat down a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're coming back, and what people don't realize is Dallas County is a blue county.
Right, it's
and,
a very blue county.
But we got to keep it that way, and that's by registering to vote. Today's your last day to register to vote, and then getting out and voting. Early voting is October 22nd through November 2nd. And what's cool is if you're in Texas, you can early vote at any polling location in your county.
And you don't have to go to your precinct, but early voting, you can go to anywhere?
Anywhere in the county, yeah. So, and you can go to DallasCountyVotes.org to look up for those locations. And you can also go to a website called CanIVote.org if you're outside of Dallas County. And you can look up your voter registration. You can look up, it'll get you to the places you need to get to. And that's what's really nice is that you can go anywhere and vote. But then on November the 6th, which is election day.
That's when you have to go to your precinct.
You have to vote in your precinct. So that might be the local elementary school or high school or middle school, or it could be a church. It could, and that sometimes is confusing for folks, especially if they change them or move them. And it's usually the same place, election after election after election. But sometimes they decide to move them or change them because maybe not enough people are voting in that precinct. And so they'll consolidate 2 or 3 precincts into one. And but as long as you show up and you're registered to vote, they have to let you vote. Now, something I want to tell everybody out there is that there is no photo ID law in the state of Texas.
Right, because the courts have thrown it out in Texas.
Right, the courts have thrown it out in Texas.
And in Pennsylvania, they put it on hold.
Right.
If I understand that correctly, they said, okay, we're going to not let this be valid this time around, but we'll talk about it the next time around because this will confuse too many people.
Right, exactly. So, and there's several states that we've been fighting this because a lot of people would be disenfranchised if you had to also produce a photo ID. What are the things that would get that kicked out? I've heard the horror stories in some states where people who have been voting for 60, 70, 80 years and have never missed an election all of a sudden were ineligible to vote. And you have a lot of folks who maybe, especially older folks that weren't born in a hospital or, or the church that kept their records is no longer there. It burned down.
A lot of elderly don't have a photo ID because they don't drive anymore because they've gotten to the point where they either don't have the need to drive because they're living in a retirement home or just don't drive because their eyesight has gotten so bad.
Right.
So a lot of people don't have a photo ID to begin with.
Right. And a lot of times there's a disparaging amount of people of color who are disenfranchised with photo ID laws. Because they just either they can't afford it, or a lot of times what happens is for some folks is that they might have a warrant out for their arrest because they didn't pay a traffic fine, like a speeding ticket. Yeah. And so they know that if they show up, maybe they can't afford to pay the speeding ticket, but they need to renew their license, but they don't because the minute they walk into the DMV, guess who's standing there? State troopers. So the minute you check in, guess what happens? Your license is run, and they find out you have a warrant, and now you're going to jail just because you were trying to renew your driver's license. So that's another reason that a lot of people have expired licenses. And then in some counties in Texas, I can't remember the number, but it's exorbitant. There's some like 100 and something counties in the state of Texas that do not even have a DMV office, and some people have to drive anywhere from 2.5 to 3 hours to get to their closest Department of Motor Vehicles in order to get that ID.
Well, I didn't even think about that with the rural areas. I guess that's possible because they don't have enough people that live in that area to work in a DMV.
Right, to work in the DMV. And some DMVs are only open a few days a week during certain times, and that's the only time that they do IDs.
Wow.
And so guess what? If you're working on a farm, or let's say that you just happen to live in a very rural area and you just work at Sonic in your town, and now you've got to drive 3 hours to...
That's a lot of gas money.
It's a lot of gas money.
It might not cost that much once you get to the DMV, but the gas, wow, that's expensive.
And that's just one way. That's not round trip. That's, so you're talking to people that they would have to, spend an entire day. It's already bad enough that I live here in Dallas, and it can take 3, 4, 5 hours to get, to get a renewal. I'm dreading it when my next one is up, So that's some of the folks that could be disenfranchised in the election. So we're very, very grateful that we do not have photo ID. If somebody tries to stop you outside of a polling location and asks to check your ID or to check anything, you just tell them no and you keep walking. Do not allow anybody to try to disenfranchise you outside of the polling location. And if somebody tries to stop you before you get to that table where you check in to vote, you tell them no. The only person you're going to talk to is the person behind that desk, and that's an election judge. And if you are registered to vote and somebody tries to tell you have to vote on what's called a provisional ballot, you tell them no, absolutely not, that you are registered to vote and you demand a ballot, because provisional ballots typically are not counted, because that means you have to follow up with something within so many days. I believe it's like 5 days or 6 days at your local county election administrator's office. Yeah, try to find that office, right? Nobody knows where that is. And you might have to produce some type of information. So do not allow them to give you a provisional ballot. If they try to give you one, that's why I tell people vote early, because if you do have a situation, you might be able to just go to another polling location, or you might be able to get that fixed while you still have plenty of time to get it fixed before election time comes up. But you can get all your information on the State of Texas website as well on voting.
Yeah. There is one thing I wanted to bring up. Barney Frank, the founder of the Stonewall Democrats, which Stonewall is named after the Stonewall riots back in the 70s, right?
In 1969 was the Stonewall.
Close.
You were very close. 1969 was the Stonewall riots that happened in New York City.
When the police raided the gay
Stonewall
bar.
Inn. Yep, it was called the Stonewall Inn.
And despite the name, it was not an actual inn. It was a bar.
Right, it was a bar. And they raided it, and it also happened to be the same night that Judy Garland had passed away, and there was a huge number of the trans and drag community that happened to be mourning that evening. Judy Garland was considered a big gay icon at the time, and they raided it, and that was the night that gay, lesbian, bi, trans people said, we had enough, and they fought back and said, tonight's not the night that you're going to raid our bar. And they fought back. And that's what a lot of people forget, is that it was our, especially gender nonconforming community, that was the first to, throw their fists up and say no more. And that's what we call the birth of the modern gay rights movement.
Right.
Yeah.
And Barney Frank, the founder of the Stonewall Democrats.
Congressman Barney Frank.
Congressman.
That's right.
Oh, I said senator, didn't I? That's right. He's in the House of Representatives,
Right.
not the Senate.
That's right. Longtime member from the state of Massachusetts.
Right. And there's an organization called the Log Cabin Republicans, which is basically the Republican version of Stonewall. Now, they don't have as much of an impact in their own party that the Stonewall does, but recently Representative Barney Frank said he compared the Log Cabin Republicans to Uncle Tom's, and I was amazed that he would go to such lengths to say that, and I was just wondering how other people felt about it. However, when you listen to his reasoning behind it, it was like, okay, I can almost see where you're coming from, because they don't have very much of an influence. They come off as apologetic to their party, but did you really need to go there? So what do you think about Barney Frank's comments?
Yeah, that was it was a little interesting. For those of you who don't know or haven't really heard Representative Barney Frank's speeches and talking, he is very off the cuff and can be very colorful at times. And I do believe that, he it depends on the context of what he said. And I personally would not use those words on anybody, but that's me. And I can't speak for the representative because I'm not his surrogate or his, on his campaign team or anything. But he probably felt a little bit, he was probably angry. He's been doing this for a very, very long time. And to have this faction of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender movement to constantly just be fighting everything that we're fighting for, because they're more concerned with their pocketbooks and the taxes that they pay instead of their own civil rights. I can see where he probably got a little bit, angry and, got a little bit upset about what he was speaking on. Probably could have done it in a little bit different light, but sometimes I think you have to, but sometimes I think you have to just say what you feel and what you mean, and you just kind of sometimes have to ask for forgiveness later and take your beatings on it. But he's a good guy, and he's done a lot for the modern gay rights movement. He was and is and always will be the first openly gay member of the U.S. Congress, and which did open the door. Right now, with this legislature that's about to end, we have 4 sitting openly gay Congress people, and hopefully, after this election,
there might be a 5th one with Tammy Baldwin.
No, well, right? Tammy Baldwin is current because she's a representative out of Wisconsin.
She's going from the House to the Senate.
Hopefully, right? If that happens, if Representative Tammy Baldwin wins her U.S. Senate race in the state of Wisconsin, she will be the first openly gay person ever to serve in the U.S. Senate, which would be, that's history. Yeah. And I'm hoping and, rooting her all the way. I encourage people to send donations or money her way if you can. Even if it's $1, $5, $10, you'd be shocked that those add up. The other day I had a woman at the Dallas Pride come up. We were accepting donations to get out the vote here in the local gay community, because that's part of what we do at Stonewall. And she, was very hesitant, and then came back later and came up to me and pulled me to the side and said, "Hey, I want to give you this. It's not much, but it's all I have." And I said, "Well, thank you." And she put it in my hand to where, I really couldn't see, and then she goes, "It's just $1." And I looked at her and I said, "Thank you so much." I said, "You don't realize that $1 is going to allow us to buy 3 cards to mail out to people that are on our lists that will, hopefully turn out and vote." I said, "You just helped 3 people. Your $1 just turned that into 3 cards that people are going to get in the mail." And she just looked at me with just like amazement that that's how far her dollar was going to go. And I said, "Thank you," because, that's, 3 more folks that we're going to be able to send a card to that we may not have gotten to send a card to. And that's why I tell people every dollar counts. People think, their change means nothing, but,
it adds up.
It adds up. Your dollar, my dollar, his dollar, her dollar, the other person's dollar, before you know it, we got $10. And, and that's 30 folks, versus just 3. And 30 that show up and vote is huge. And that's what people, when they say, "Oh, I'm not going to vote, my vote doesn't count," it drives me insane.
It drives me insane too. It drives activists absolutely berserk when you say that.
Let me tell you a real quick thing about why, and this what I love is this is numbers, and this is proof on how your vote counts. Here in the state of Texas, we had a state representative that lost, she won her seat by 4 votes. She would have lost her seat. She's a sitting incumbent and won by 4 votes. That was an entire election. But let's go back a little further to the 2008 election with President Barack Obama. President Barack Obama won the state of North Carolina, which we know is still a swing state. It's still huge. But President Barack Obama won the state of North Carolina by 1,500 votes, 1,500 votes out of their entire state. It's not very many. Slim margin. When we break it down by precinct, the average is 5 votes per precinct is how we won North Carolina. 5 votes per precinct. So if that doesn't tell you that your vote counts and matters, I don't know what else to tell you. The state of Florida, 4 years ago, we won by 250,000 votes. 250,000 votes sounds like a lot. It does. It sounds huge, right? Some cities, entire cities aren't even 250,000 people. But when we broke it down, it's just around 30 votes per precinct out of the entire state. 30 votes per precinct is such a slim margin. I can guarantee you everybody out there that's listening online or that's going to watch this later on YouTube knows 5 folks. Guarantee you know 5 folks. Get those 5 folks to the polls, because those 5 folks is how we won North Carolina. Probably a smaller number that maybe knows 30 folks or more. Get those 30 folks to the polls, because that's how we won the state of Florida. And that's what we're driving for at Stonewall, is equality. Not just equality for LGBT people, but for Hispanic people, for African Americans, for transgender people, for people just for basic needs like healthcare. We've got to do our part. And, you know, it might cost us just a teeny tiny more, but when we get everybody covered with healthcare, we're going to have a healthier society that's actually going to save us money in the long run. We have a group of individuals, they're called the Dreamers, that were brought to the United States as young people, youth, through no choice of their own, who are now undocumented, who have gone through our schools, who going through our colleges, who serve us in our military. And the Republican Party says to send them back, or like Mitt Romney says, he wants them to self-deport. I don't understand what that means. I don't know what that means. But
I mean, why would you go from America to another nation that you just wanted to leave to begin with?
Well, these are youth. Yeah, these are young people who didn't even know. They know no difference. So a lot of them are, they came here when they were 2 and 3 years old. And now they're 21, 22, 25, 30 years old. And the only thing they know is how to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag. They sing the Star-Spangled Banner. You know, they pay their taxes, because that's a big myth, and that the Republicans love to say is that people that are undocumented don't pay taxes. I know that every time they buy something at the store and they pay sales tax, that goes to your local economy. A lot of folks, you don't have to be documented to own a home in the United States, so they pay property taxes. That,
because a real estate agent does not want to look at your birth certificate. A real estate agent wants to make money.
Yeah, they're there to sell the house,
right.
And the state too. They just want the house to sell. And so they pay taxes, tons and tons of taxes, a huge majority of taxes. And if all of a sudden these folks are gone, that would put a huge damper on the coffers for state and, state, local governments as well. And then there's the myth that, they're just coming over here and they're just using up all our resources, which is also untrue. That's another myth. And these dreamers, I know many, many dreamers who they just want to live their life, get a job. They're good citizens and they love this country. In fact, a lot of them love this country more and know more about this country than a lot of its natural born citizens. And that's something we've got to fix. President Barack Obama signed an executive order that would advance, for a certain number to apply for work visas, and so that they would not be deported anymore. And that's a start. But if under a President Mitt Romney administration, it's probably one of the first things that he would take away, because he's already said that he would veto the DREAM Act if it was passed at the legislative level.
That's one of the few things he hasn't flip-flopped on.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's one of the few things I haven't heard him flip-flop.
Let's see, it's only 5 o'clock, so
right.
Right. and we are 28 days away from the election. A lot of people don't realize today we are 4 weeks. What's the last day to register to vote? But we are 4 weeks away from Election Day. 4 weeks, 28 days today, 4 Tuesdays from now, we will know. Hopefully we don't have a hanging Chad situation like we did
Florida
in 2000. So hopefully we'll know who the president of the United States is, by 9, 10 p.m. Central Standard Time that night. but it takes everybody, every single one of us, to do something. And if you want to get involved, like I said, go, look us up on Facebook or on our website, stonewalldemocratsofdallas.org. You can also, go to barackobama.com, if you want to be at the big presidential level. But there's so much, and anything you can do or give. It's not just money. We also need bodies. We need people on the ground knocking on doors, doing making phone calls. What's cool here in Dallas is that we actually have a Barack Obama headquarters, and it's in the same office as our county party headquarters. So 4209 Perry Street, Parry, and you can show up anytime. And in the morning, afternoon, evening, they are there from like 7, 8 in the morning all the way till 9 p.m. at night. I think our local campaign person, I think that she's just got a cot there now. I don't think she even leaves there. So be nice and cool to folks, but trust me, they're ready for you to get in there and make phone calls or get lists so you can knock on doors. Right. And what's really cool with the Obama campaign is you don't even have to go to a headquarters. You can do it from the privacy of your own home now. They have a dashboard on their website, and you can make phone calls right there at home, and you don't even have to go anywhere.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff. So the advancement of technology and social media.
You can even just drop by the headquarters to pick up Obama for America, the campaign sign, right?
You can get a yard sign. They are $5 a piece. However, I would call ahead first because
sometimes they run out.
They run out very fast.
I've noticed on Facebook posts they'll say our signs are running out, or like the next day we have more signs.
Yeah, they just got here, and all of a sudden there's like a line of like 80 people, that are ready for a yard sign. It's not that bad usually, but it goes really, really fast.
Yeah.
And those are some of the stuff like we are having a phone bank tonight at party headquarters, an LGBT phone bank for Dallas County. So we encourage people to go down there
this weekend.
It's tonight, and then there's this coming Thursday we have a vice presidential debate watch party at Sue Ellen's in the Cedar Springs area. So you can come and
I'm going.
Yeah, awesome, yay!
Yeah, I was one of the first people that clicked on going.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
on Facebook. I think I saw that.
I think David Elafuente was like the first one, and then I was the second one.
Yeah,
or something
exactly.
Like that.
Yeah, it was good stuff, and so we'll have that on Thursday. And it'll be at Sue Ellen's on the lower level, and they will be playing the debate on the big giant screen. So that should be nice and fun to watch. And, you can drink responsibly, at their bar as well.
Or you could have a Red Bull like what I always do.
Yeah, or you could have a Red Bull or, what have you. It's a free event. And then on next Sunday, or this coming Sunday.
This coming Sunday is the block walk.
Yeah,
right?
There's a LGBT mega walk that is being sponsored by Stonewall Democrats of Dallas, as well as by Organizing for America, which is the Obama campaign, and the Dallas County Democratic Party. And we're going to be meeting up at the Resource Center of Dallas, which is on Reagan Street, right there in the neighborhood. And
right.
If you've never done it before, show up. We will train you. We nobody goes out alone. We partner everybody up with somebody experienced, and we give you the doors you're going to knock on. And what's cool about it is we give you Democrats' doors, so you're not going to have to worry about you're going to get some angry, crazy, psycho Republican
you're not gonna knock
from
on
the
door,
Tea Party.
Yeah. You're not going to have a gun pointed at your face.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
These are people that want to hear from us, and sometimes they just don't realize how important it is to we need you to. We know what polling shows. It's very favorable for the president right now, but it's not just the president's race. We also have to win down ticket races. Yeah. Because we have to reelect our sheriff here in Dallas County, Lupe Valdez. She's the only. This is a history as well. She's the only Hispanic female sheriff in the entire United States. A lot of people don't know that.
Really, the only one?
The only Hispanic female sheriff in the entire United States.
For a while, and I didn't know that fact.
And she happens to be a lesbian. So and it's right here in Dallas County.
Would she also be the only lesbian sheriff?
I don't know the answer to that because Hispanic female is the only, so it's probably a pretty good chance that she may be.
Yeah,
but I don't know the answer on that one.
A lot of women sheriffs.
Right, there's very few. There's only 2 female sheriffs in the state of Texas,
right.
And so that's a pretty interesting thing that people don't realize. And then here in Dallas County, we're the county of firsts. We have our commissioner, Dr. Elba Garcia. She is the first Hispanic person to ever be elected to the Dallas County Commissioners Court. And then we have 2 years ago we elected Judge Tanya Parker, who is the first openly African American lesbian to ever be elected in the state of Texas. And remember, I said openly. So, and then we also we have so many firsts here. And then, what's really cool is the El Paso County is sending Mary Gonzalez, the first ever pansexual in the history of the nation,
right,
to ever be elected.
And basically, you're like, what's pansexual? And I feel like only people in the LGBT community even has heard of it. Basically, pansexual is someone that says, "Oh, I'm not looking at what gender you are when I'm dating," and people are like, "Oh, isn't that kind of like bisexual?" It is, but a pansexual might be more open to date someone that's transgender.
Yeah.
From what I've
gender nonconforming,
gender
right?
Nonconforming,
they're more about the mind and the spirit of the person than the actual physicalness of the person.
Right.
So, is kind of how I understand it.
Yeah, that's how I understand it as well. Yeah.
And they typically identify as queer.
Mm-hmm.
They don't usually say like, oh, I'm pansexual. They usually say they're queer, and that's where a lot of pansexual people fall in line. So. But so we're sending that person. Her name is Mary Gonzalez, Representative-elect Mary Gonzalez.
And the first open lesbian mayor or openly gay mayor of any
major city
is right here in
down in Houston. Yeah, Marinese Parker.
Yeah,
and she's also the first ever major city openly gay mayor to be reelected. So
right.
Yeah,
and. Some of y'all might be thinking, oh, wasn't Harvey Milk a city supervisor? Well, a city supervisor was the equivalent of city council member. He actually wasn't the mayor.
Of San Francisco. Right.
Yeah.
He was a city councilman. So that's some really cool stuff that's going on around the country. One thing we didn't even talk about yet was the Democratic National Party platform.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's I was so proud to cast my vote unanimously with the entire national delegation that added marriage equality and so many other issues that are facing lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people to its national party platform. So we also added stuff in there about adoption, employment, and it is the strongest and most inclusive party platform ever adopted by any party in our nation's history, and that just happened at the National Convention in Charlotte. So that was some pretty exciting stuff. It was very emotional when that happened.
I remember at the state convention when we approved marriage equality for the first time. I remember that being a big emotional moment on the floor.
Yeah, that was a very emotional time, and unfortunately I missed it. Because I had to get back on the road and back home, because we do have jobs the next day.
I just thought it was really sad that some Dallas Stonewall missed that moment.
Yeah, but from what I saw on pictures and just the people that talked about it was pretty exciting.
Yeah,
and that's a big moment, and that we're lucky that we sent some people here from Dallas up to the platform committee. Meeting that they had in Denver. We actually had folks, our past president Aaron Moore served on that national committee.
Right.
So Stonewall, we don't just what is that, walk the walk, or what is it, talk the talk?
We don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk.
That's right, we walk the walk too. We make things happen at national level all the way down to the local level. Working on making this another first. Dallas County is the first and only county in the entire state of Texas to have an employee non-discrimination policy for its employees. That includes sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. That we're the first and only. We beat Travis County to it.
Travis County, San Antonio?
Travis County is Austin, actually. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
We beat Austin.
Yeah. Austin has sexual orientation, but they don't have the GI and the GE, gender identity and gender expression.
Yeah.
But El Paso County beat us on domestic partner benefits. They don't have an employee non-discrimination policy, but they are the second county to offer domestic partner benefits. So we're working on it here in Dallas County and hope to have that finished hopefully by the end of the year. I know our commissioners are working on that right now.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's some pretty exciting stuff going on in the political world,
Right.
especially for political junkies like
Yeah.
me and you. You know, but you know, that's the stuff that you've got to do is get involved, get active. You know, and like I tell people, you might have an hour a month. That hour a month is so needed and so necessary. And if you want to get more involved, you know, you can also serve on commissions and boards for your city or your county. I happen to serve on the Community Development Commission for the city of Dallas, and I also serve on
volunteer.
Yes,
position?
it's a volunteer position. You have to be appointed, and we meet about once a month. And we have 1 month that we don't
Who are
meet.
you appointed by?
I was appointed by Councilwoman Delia Hasso, so I represent District 1 out of the city of Dallas on the Community Development Commission. And so what we work on is we work on CDBG grants, which are Community Development Block Grants. So it's basically your taxes that you send, your income taxes that you send to the federal government. It's the money we actually get back. So it's the money that they give back to us to put into programs. And so we don't actually distribute those funds. What we do is we create we create the concept. So we create the actual, like, oh, it looks like we really need a program for youth after school education project. And we hear this from the community, so we want to make sure that that is something that is created, that concept. And then if that concept is approved ultimately by the city council, then the bidding process opens, and that is open to anybody to try to get that contract. And then those dollars are then, you know, paid to that organization or that community branch that is going to make that program work. So I remember 2 years ago, this past budget, we were able to, through a HOPWA grant, which is housing for persons with AIDS, we were able to actually retro put some money, which was rarely ever happens for a local organization here, to fix up their, I can't remember if it was their air conditioning units and their windows that were going out. And so 2 years prior, we had helped them with their roof. And so this time around, we were able to help them to fix up their facility because it's basically a hospice. And so that these folks in their final days can, finish out their life with dignity and respect. So, that's your tax dollars at work, that people don't realize that are, necessary and needed in order to serve all of our members of our community. And then from the county, I serve on the 6th Floor Museum Board, which is the second most visited historical site in the state of Texas. In the state of Texas, the second most visited. The number one most visited historical site in the state of Texas is the Alamo, and then after that, it's the 6th Floor Museum, which is right there in the West End.
Right.
It's a phenomenal museum, and I encourage everybody to check it out because a lot of people that live here in Dallas don't realize that it's even there. And there's a lot of great little museums down in downtown Dallas, but that area is very is historical and has a lot of meaning. And next year is actually the 50th anniversary of the assassination of JFK, and there will be some events that are being planned by the museum as well as in conjunction with other groups to commemorate this tragedy that happened in our city. But it's not just like a city of Dallas thing. It's a worldwide event that happened, the assassination, and it'll be done with dignity and respect. And then it's pretty exciting. I wasn't born during that time, and I know you weren't either.
I definitely wasn't.
When that happened, but to be a part of it, even though it's a solemn occasion, it's kind of cool to be on the planning board that's working on this, and getting to help make sure that not just our local community commemorates the 50th anniversary, but also you're commemorating it for the world, which is kind of cool that you get to be part of that, even though it's not a situation that I'm glad happened, obviously, but just that we have the ability to make sure that we commemorate this this event.
Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me. This was exciting.
This was exciting. Omar Nara is the president of Dallas Stonewall
That's
Democrats,
right.
as well as employer of Lambda Legal.
Yeah, I'm the community educator for Lambda Legal.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.